Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough came out in 2020, followed by Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, followed by Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children, which became a bestseller, as well as Raised by These Wolves, Volume 2, Child Trafficking Through the Foster Care and Court Systems, which came out July 17th as a bestseller. And please follow my podcast on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. I have a return guest on. I have Eulonda Rushing on. She's going to discuss her experiences within the system, particularly in Cabarrus County and across North Carolina. Eulonda Rushing is a dedicated wife and mother, a double major at Oklahoma University, and an MBA graduate from Wake Forest University. She is also an honorably discharged Army veteran and a non-financial member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. In addition to her advocacy work, Eulonda is running for the office of Cabarrus County Commission, where she aims to effect meaningful change in her community. In her talk, she will address issues related to child protective services, local politics, and the importance of remaining true to oneself. Regardless of the outcome she faces, she is committed to advocating for change. Eulonda values honesty and authenticity in all aspects of her life and seeks to inspire others with the reminder, in quotes, be an Esther, bold and courageous, enough to stand for the truth, to voice your opinion, and to fight for the good of others, even at personal cost. If God has placed you in a position, it is for a purpose. Never be afraid to heed that inner voice, in quotes. And hey, welcome, Eulonda. You've got a bold voice and you're a mama for change. So I totally welcome you, Eulonda. How is it going with everything?
Thank you, Marianne, for this opportunity. I am so glad to be back. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And I just appreciate the work that you are continuing to do to highlight the issues that are going on in the child welfare system. So thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for your courage to run for office and speak out the truth that people just don't want to hear.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think the reason why that is there's, well, we talked about that earlier. I'll let you handle that.
We'll get into that later on in the session. So yes, I will definitely speak on that.
I'm so glad you're speaking out.
Thank you. It's been a journey.
Yes.
It's been exhausting. I'm at the point where I'm tired. I'm tired of reaching out to politicians. I'm tired of reaching out to agencies and organizations to help me with change and to help me with my situation. And to much avail, no action. My husband and I and my family are still in the system, and it's been almost 15 months. And so I'm hoping that this right here will shed light into more of what is going on, not only with my case, but with all the children that are in Cabarrus County. I feel that there's a need here. And if we can't speak up for our children who are our future, then what are we really doing? And I thought to myself, perhaps I was made for a time such as this, a time where I had no idea children were being improperly moved,
Mm-hmm.
where I questioned God as to why us? And I had to remember that God did not give us a spirit of fear, because throughout this journey, we are constantly being told to be quiet, don't say anything. If you want to live here, you can't speak. And that bothered me. It still bothers me. If we can't have conversations and if we can't raise our voices, then that's an issue. And as a candidate for county commissioner, if I can't be authentic to you, if I have to appease you for a vote, if I have to try to sell you this dream or this idea to put me on that diocese, then I don't need to be on that ballot. If you don't want to deal with certain individuals because you're tired of them and you're afraid of what they're going to do, such as our DSS attorney, H.J. White Sr., our district judge, Chrissy Wilhelm, if you know that you are going to have to work with them in some capacity as an elected official, do the constituents a favor. Do not put your name on the ballot. That's that simple.
It is.
We
It
are
is.
in. Mhm. Go
Because
ahead.
why go on a ballot? And you need to do what you need to do. There's no point in running if you're just going to follow the crowd.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm not going to follow the crowd no more. As I stated earlier when we were speaking, this journey has redefined me.
Mm.
It has changed me. It, of course, is going to change. My family has changed. And as I continue through this journey and I realize I can't change who I am, and I'm realizing that's what politics is. You put on this image so that you can appease voters to vote for you.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us, oh, bring me your issues to the table. Let's have a conversation. Well, if I bring my issues to you at this table and you're giving me a different perspective of you, how do I know for certain that when you're elected, that my issues or any other constituents' issues are going to be put on that table that you're going to be at? And if you can't handle it, and if you don't know what is required of you in that role, perhaps you need to go back, research that role, learn what you can and cannot do, and just do that. And keeping in mind that you work for the people, not individuals. Not individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So right now in Cabarrus County, we have vulnerable children
Mm-hmm.
who cannot speak for themselves, parents that don't have the resources, parents that are afraid to speak up, parents that do fight, such as me and my husband. And when we do, we're labeled as combative. Well, I'm here to tell you, we will continue to fight. We will continue to voice for change. It is 2024. We do not have the time for this.
We don't. No.
We don't. It's a lot. It is a whole lot. I am sacrificing a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am sacrificing my job. I am sacrificing my health. I
Mm-hmm.
am sacrificing my well being because constantly I'm thinking about the children. Constantly I'm thinking, how is it that I can go to a representative or a senator or even the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services?
Mm-hmm.
And then to avail no action, no nothing. We're like stuck. And I'm now seeing that when you're in this system, I see how the pipeline is developed. It's all a pipeline to foster care, to prisons. It's not good. And in my position, I realize that the parents that don't have the resources, I empathize and sympathize with them. And I can empathize with them now because when I did have the resources and when we did fight tooth and nail,
Mm-hmm.
we were depleted.
Well,
And when we were depleted, we knew that we still had to work, but we had to research. Imagine a family who is in a working class community or poor.
mm,
Do they know their resources? Do they have the funds to obtain an attorney?
mm,
No,
mm-mm.
that's what I'm seeing. It's a shame that I can go to court and I'm the only case, the only person to have a private attorney. These parents have to rely on court appointed attorneys. Well, in our county, our court appointed attorneys are not contracted with the Parent Indigenous Services. Our attorneys are contracted here in this county. So when you look at that, and I can't really knock them, but at the same time, it's like, but you still have an obligation to these families and to these children. I
Mhm.
understand that you have to be fed. But at the end of the day, when you decided to be an attorney, when you decide to represent this family, you had to adhere to their Bill of Rights. And they are not doing that.
Mm-mm.
There are some attorneys that will advocate very well, and I know some, but those attorneys are scared.
And
Why
rightly
is
so.
that? Exactly. There is no reason why you should be afraid to do
Mhm.
your job. If that's the case, and I want to say there is now, I believe in Georgia, where they are creating a legal fund to help state elected election officials to where they can have protection. Yes, research it. So I was thinking, okay, if they set up a legal fund to help protect state elected officials because of what's going on, why do we not have this in place for all elected officials so they
Mhm.
can do the right thing? Why do they not have a raise your hand if an ethics violation is in place? Why does DSS not have something where if you see something, say something? But instead, you have social workers, attorneys that will aid and abet, like all these entities and people to cover up, to hide the truth and what is being done. I can no longer do that. I can't. I don't see how people can do that. If I want your vote, I want you to see I am, who I am. And that is one of the reasons why I started to, and I know I'm segueing a little bit, but that was the reason why I decided to embrace me.
Mhm.
That's why I started my walk journey. I just started this Wednesday.
Mhm.
And when I walked out of that salon and I shook my head, I said, oh, this is mine. This is
Right.
me.
Right. Because yeah, I'm posting your campaign picture, and
Yeah.
which is completely different from how you look, but you look beautiful. Your
Oh,
locks look really cool.
yes. I'm actually going to start a blog with my lock journey, and it's going to be called Redefined with a Twist.
Oh,
So I am all for this. I am just all for this. And it's kind of going to help my journey through advocating for change in the child welfare system. So I am so ready. So regardless if I win or lose,
mhm.
Marianne, they are still going to hear from me.
People like you should win because there's so much corruption in politics. I just don't know where to begin, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. But people are afraid to say corruption. People are afraid to say RICO. And I get it and I see why.
Mhm.
Because if you go into these different entities on a state level, on a local level, on a county level, and you see that they're not willing to help, then one will think corruption. One would think you're not really trying to help me. One of the biggest things that's going on in Cabarrus County right now is property taxes, right?
Mhm.
They're upset that they are high. My property taxes went from $3,000 and something dollars to $5,000 and something dollars. And I told another candidate who was on another ticket, and I said, I don't care about my property taxes being increased. He was like, well, your constituents do. You're right, they do. But guess what? Right now, my focus is on the children.
Mhm.
And I do care about those taxpayers who are having to pay these high property taxes.
Mhm.
Because when they pay their taxes, the residents in Cabarrus County do not know where their money is going to. There is no transparency.
Mhm.
And here we are in Cabarrus County trying to buy these massive buildings or build these massive buildings, these capital projects. But
Like
we can't even
courthouses.
exactly. But we can't even take care of the buildings that we do have. I'll give you an example. Why was maintenance deferred on school buildings?
Hmm.
Why are you building these large buildings like the courthouse and you can't take care of the ones you have? Are you going to defer maintenance on that going forward? Is this something that we're going to have to fix later on in the years? where our children will have to fix. So, see, this is why we have to ensure that we are taking care of our children.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense. And I tell the people and I tell those that I come in contact with, yeah, we can make a decision. Yeah, people are saying, oh, we should have bonds and let the people decide. True. But you have to remember there are pros and cons to every decision that is made.
Mm-hmm.
And before you do that, you should educate the people so that they can understand what is going on. They have that right. Tell them the pros and cons of everything. And my stance on it right now is I don't have an answer for the property taxes situation. You want to know why? Because if you don't know the financial position, how can you decide anything? How did you even create or propose a budget for the new year?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had an NY student fill out a FOIA request to get the actual budget. She has not received that. It's been months. She was contacted and they told her, oh, well, there's some line items in DSS that we have to fix. I would like to know what those line items are. And if you're fixing it, I have one line item right now that I have a major concern with.
Mm-hmm.
You spent $1,200 for training on social workers for a whole fiscal year. That's not enough for one person to go through training.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even understand ICWA guidelines. You don't understand the policy. The commissioners don't even understand their statutes and what they can and cannot do. DS directors don't understand what they can and cannot do. We had a DS director say, well, there's nothing I can do. Yes, there is something you can do. And I regurgitated it to her. In North Carolina, a DSS director can dismiss a case by following the procedures and guidelines set forth in North Carolina general statutes. It's right here. It's in chapter 7B.
Mm-hmm.
If you go down to 7B 903, if the case involves court orders, the DSS can petition the court for dismissal of the case. So don't say to me, oh, well, the judge has it and I can't do anything. It's right there. It's right there. So what are we doing?
Yeah, what are they doing? There's no oversight and there's no accountability. This is rampant.
Yes. Again, like I said earlier, if you get into these positions and you don't know what you're doing and you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. I would appreciate that more than saying, I can't, and you haven't done your due diligence to research what you can and cannot do. That's why you have policies and procedures and processes in place. So it appears to me that Cabarrus County is lacking that. And I know that. Because if I file a complaint and I contact you, how do I file a complaint on a commissioner? How do I file a complaint on a contracted attorney? Huh? You don't have a process.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. And so I'm going to segue into our case to give a high level overview of what my family has been facing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my family is facing something like this, can you imagine what is being done to other families? And they did it with so much ease,
Mm-hmm.
unconscious, no conscience at all.
Oh.
And I can tell you that. You can see it. And so I will start with the removal. So when you remove a child, there are certain things that you have to ask, right? One of the things was, I'm Native American. I'm Choctaw. Social workers and judges are supposed to ask parents if they are Native American. And if they are Native American, there are certain guidelines that you have to adhere to. So let me show you this.
I'm sure your paperwork is voluminous. It would have to be with everything you've gone through and running for candidacy.
Let me tell you, when we first got Discovery, it was over 3,000 pages. And I'm like, really? Okay, they said they did an extensive investigation, which, by the way, the report was made in November of 2022. The investigation is supposed to take 45 to 60 days, right?
Hmm.
Our investigation didn't conclude until July of 2023. They do home visits while all this is going on. Our home visits stopped in February or March.
Hmm.
The last home visit we had actually in our home was during that time. They did it, they counted the children going to DSS and having their second interview with the CFE examiners as a home visit. That's not a home visit. That's what you counted it as. So, how do you remove a child that you haven't had no contact with theoretically since April? I haven't had contact with you, but I'm asking what's going on. And that is what prompted me to file a complaint. And when I filed that complaint, that's where I made the mistake.
Because they retaliated.
Yes,
That's what happened to me.
yes, ma'am. Because there is no way that we can have a CFT meeting on July 28th
Hmm.
and then turn around and come and take my children on August the 7th.
Wow.
Huh?
Hmm.
And which, by the way, I wasn't even here when they came and took my children. How do you do that? I get that you can take my husband and I's two kids that we had together, I guess, because he's here. But I had two other children that he is biologically not their father. He's their caretaker.
Hmm.
So how can you take a child from a caretaker? I had to Uber here because during that time I had counsel, which, by the way, DSS never contacted my counsel, period. We subpoenaed DSS once, did not show. That was one of the complaints I had.
Hmm.
How do you get subpoenaed and not show up? And if you had all these concerns and you did this extensive investigation and you were worried about the children, don't you have an obligation to show up to that subpoena and say, you know what, Your Honor, we looked into this. We see that Miss Rushing said this, and that. But lo and behold, that's not accurate. So we have concerns for Ivy. That didn't happen. So what was
Hmm.
the purpose of you skipping that subpoena? What
I,
was the
I,
purpose?
yeah. Well, the thing is, we subpoenaed a school nurse, and she just didn't show up to court. I mean, and my attorney said, "Well, apparently subpoenas don't mean anything to anyone."
Right. And they also don't tell you about CFT meetings. I had to learn this by reading that when you have a child family team meeting, you can bring community support. They don't want to tell you that. I made sure I had support. So
Good.
I wanted to show you this line. This line, and I know it's kind of fuzzy, but right here, does the Indian Child Welfare Act apply? No.
Uh-huh. Yep, I see it.
No. That's the first thing you did wrong. Every time we went to court, the judge is supposed to ask that question. Even the first time that we went, we were never asked that question. And why that is so important is because of ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. That's a federal act right now that is being ignored. I don't know what their game plan is or what they're trying to do because this is insane.
Hmm. Hmm.
The other thing was they asked, they did not ask me if I was a service member or if I ever had military experience or whatever. We heard from the new social worker that they were supposed to check yes. Because veterans, which I'm now seeing, there may be things going on that you are unaware of. And I will tell you this, that is important in my case.
Mm-hmm.
They want to say that I have a mental illness and I'm this and I'm that, and but you can't show me any paperwork that speaks to your allegation.
Mm-hmm.
But you want me to go do a new mental evaluation, a psychological evaluation to your preferred providers. And I'm sorry, when you do that, that tells me that you want your outcome. I try to offer them my psychological evaluation from the military. My attorney at the time provided that to them. They did not want it, they would not accept it. When our case finally got transferred to another county just for the two boys, when they inquired, I gave it to them. And they asked me, well, what is it? And I said, well, this is what's going on. Depression. I'm not afraid to say that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Mental illness is here and it's real.
And depression, and this is goes back to when I was a psychiatric nurse in 1994. They called depression and anxiety the common cold of America. That was
Yes,
1994.
I have depression and anxiety.
Same.
So does that mean that when a mother has a child and she has postpartum depression, you're going to go and take their children? Is that what that means? Because my anxiety and my depression now is because you all have taken my children.
Mm-hmm.
You've added to my medical issues, my health. You're adding more to that. And it makes no sense that I have to go through this. It makes no sense that a parent has to go through this. And then when parents go through this, they're expected to work full time. They're expected to go to these doctor's appointments, go to these CFT meetings, go to these visits where they only give you an hour or two. You got to do all of that. And if a parent can manage all of that, that tells me that parent can manage their children,
Right,
care
right.
of their child, right?
But they're also ignoring the intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is a tort they're causing on parents and children.
You are violating parental rights. We
Mm-hmm.
have a sovereignty under the Constitution. We were, God gave us these children to take charge over. You are taking that away. And I have to say this because different ethnicities don't raise their children the same way.
Right.
They don't, you know, and so that's where the problem is. But I hate to say most of these laws, policies, and procedures are written by whom? Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
How can that majority tell us how to raise our kids? What's neglect? What's injurious environment? What's abuse? How can you tell us that? And then North Carolina is a mandatory reporting state, which means anybody can report if they see some form of child abuse. I think that's a problem
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because everybody doesn't know what child abuse and neglect looks like.
Right.
I had one person give me a really good example. So, say you're at Walmart and you're walking with your child from the parking lot and they are crying because you didn't buy them no candy.
Yeah.
So you're getting to the vehicle and you're like, son, just get in the car. Let's go. We got to go. We'll get candy later. We can't get candy here. Or you got to eat first before you have candy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what conversation is being had with this parent, but you see a crying child that's refusing to get in the car and you're trying to put the child in the car. That person will say, they're being abused. So let me call DSS. Am I right?
Yeah. That's
Am
what.
I right? But meanwhile, it was this parent telling this child, no, he cannot have candy because he hasn't eaten yet or because he has candy at home.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what neglect and abuse looks like. I had one statistic that was so profound to me, and I wish I had it in hand and in front of me. I went to this seminar with some child welfare experts. And during that time, they gave me two statistics that were alarming. Out of the whole United States, 5% of the cases rose to the level where CPS should have been involved. 5%. So, where is that other 95%? What's going on with that?
Those are those fake calls, those vengeful calls where people want to get even with parents for whatever, making false allegation type of things. That was done to me.
And you know what else is interesting? When they remove your children, they can go to a judge without you being present.
Mm-hmm.
Ex parte. You don't know what's being discussed. You don't know what the social worker is telling the judge. And I hate to say this, but judges are believing what the social workers say instead of doing their due diligence.
Exactly.
You have to read. They're not reading. I had one judge in my case that read.
Mm-hmm.
One out of four. Five, I miscounted.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about the judge where they personally went and handpicked out of a different county, out of retirement, to come and rule on my case.
Well, they pull them out of retirement, and then they just take CPS's word for it. Because I was warned about this. Nurses had warned me. Whatever that caseworker says, the judge is going to go with it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So imagine that ex parte being held and I'm not present. But you come to me with no paperwork, no nothing. Because when I finally arrived here, my children were already in the vehicle. I had to ask the police officer, can you please stall them so I can at least see them before they go?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I get here, the social worker, the supervisor never explained to me at that time why my children were being removed. They handed one paper, and that one paper was the order for non secure custody. That's the only paper they provided. And they didn't even want to provide that to my husband. No petition, no certificate of return of service, no summons. I had to go the next day to the courthouse to get a copy of my file, to get a copy of the petition of what's going on. The sheriff didn't serve me until later. You already have my kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when they did this ex parte, you check this box. You are authorized to enter private property to take custody of the juvenile. Underneath that, you checked another box, and you are authorized to make forcible entry at any hour if that is required by extingent circumstances of the case. They sent 4 police officers here. For what? Forcible entry? For what? And the judge that signed this order,
Um, I can't. You know how they sign their. That's so loopy. I can't even read the signature.
you don't have to read this, read underneath the signature.
Stephen A. Grossman on Stephen
Yeah,
Grossman.
he retired. He's retired now. But you want to know what else is so interesting about that? Look at this. This is an order to appoint or release guardian ad litem, an
Oh,
attorney advocate. They assigned
uh, Rachel Grossman Zach.
So I was looking at the papers. Grossman, is that a coincidence? So with this, my husband and I were like, this doesn't make sense. Like, who is this? We want to know. Let's
Right.
just see if they're any type of relation. Come to find out, that's father and daughter.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
So Rachel Grossman Zach was the Garden Litem administrator of this county at the time. I also learned that Stephen Grossman was not supposed to sign any of these orders because that is a conflict of interest. You know what we were told?
Oh, no.
Oh, they done it all the time. No one says anything. Oh, but we're going to say something. My husband contacted the Garden ad litem program and said what this was. We had to get a new garden ad litem.
Mm.
Then you assign
Okay. Andrea Anders, GAL. And there we go with Rachel Grossman Zach, GAL.
yes, case supervisor.
Mhm.
Andrea Anders, she went to Wake Forest. So she's my colleague. Wait. But she also went to school with or knows Stephen A. Grossman. Either went to school or knows him. That's more conflict of interest. So we had to get her removed. Then we got Nita Stanley. That's all I can say. But I will tell you this, when we tried to introduce ourselves to her, she pointed at me and told me to go sit down.
Oh, geez. Oh, no, no, no.
Yes. That's what's going on in this county. That's what I'm not going to continue to hide. There are people in this county that know what is going on, yet they refuse to speak.
Now, were you told to go? I'm sorry. Were you told to go sit down in the courtroom? Is
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
oh, God.
Because she was walking to the door and we never met her. So my husband and I went and he was like, are you the Garden ad litem attorney? You need to go sit down. Oh, I, I didn't have the words. So
Mm.
listen to this. So you did this investigation, right? For all these months. Listen to this recording. Because if you did an investigation, you would have known that my daughter confided in my husband. That's where it all started. I just reported it. But listen to this.
And so the reason for that is because while you were there,
okay,
it has some.
Here we go.
And so the reason for that is because the department has some concerns regarding your protective, capacity in regards to the emotional abuse that was going on in the home while you were there.
okay. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. We never spoke.
What do you mean?
Me and you never spoke regarding this case.
Yes, we did.
No, we did not.
Initiation.
No, you never spoke with me. You never spoke.
I did with you.
I was at work during this time.
Not at.
Yes, I was. You never spoke with me in regard to the case.
You were upstairs. You were upstairs. Okay.
Jessica, you never spoke with me.
I'm sorry. I remember speaking with you.
Jessica, I can guarantee you that you never spoke with me because I work at the airline. During those times, I was working at night. I had a hectic schedule.
Right.
We never spoke regarding this case at all.
Mm.
Okay.
This case was initiated in November. We never spoke about the case. The last time that I spoke with you, Jessica, regarding any matter was in regards to Carson Hill Campbell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to placement is you have the number for Valerie.
And also, if we spoken, Jessica, I would have signed those yellow papers that I signed previously in the past when dealing with the Carson situation. My signature is not on any type of documentation.
Okay, that is true.
Yes, that's correct. I have no signature on any documentation that was provided in November.
Okay, so we only do that when we change the safety plan.
No.
I don't do that at every visit.
No. But if you spoke with me, not only was my wife's signature will be there, but my signature will be there as well.
Okay.
So again, my question to you again is, if you never spoke with me in regards to the situation, I should have the same rights that Brian Nebel has, the same rights that Kevin.
So I stop it there for privacy reasons,
Okay.
because I don't want to get in trouble with that. But as you can see, if you did this extensive investigation, you never spoke to my husband.
Oh.
Ever. So again, I say, why did you remove our children? That's why I say this whole case helped me make it make sense. Because it doesn't. The more we fight, like I stated earlier, they deem us combative. I'm belligerent. I'm aggressive. Even in the evidence, they said that when they came and picked up the children, that I was screaming, yelling, waving my arm and shaking my head and saying that I was going to sue everybody. And you know what I say to that, Marianne? And I hope they hear me now. Release the body cam footage because it's there. Release all 4 cameras because we spoke to an officer that said, hey, because we ran into one of them and we were like, well, they say we were acting. I don't recall that. And you can just go request the recording. So I say now, release the body cam footage. Release it. I have nothing to hide, Marianne. Now, listen to this. In order to remove a child, there has to be imminent danger, harm, and threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you check this box for forcible entry. So you were saying that there was this exigent circumstance to where you had to immediately come and get our children. They had that hearing at 9 something. They were here at 10 something. By noon, we were in an empty house in one day and trying to figure out what is going on here. So listen, so all this time we were asking, well, what is it? What did we do? And I don't know if people know, when your children are removed, they say you have to complete a case plan. No, the judge has to order that case plan to figure out what needs to be done in that case plan. So my husband and I were like, we know we didn't do nothing wrong, so we're not going to do this case plan. We're going to let the judge decide. I had people telling me, oh, just do the case plan and get your kids back.
Oh,
what?
No.
I'm not going to roll on my back and scratch and let you just scratch my belly any kind of way.
Even if you did that, they still wouldn't give you your kids back. People don't realize that.
No, we ran into parents that said, I completed everything in my case plan. I have her name and number. You know what she said after court? They told her it was too late and gave her child away. I seen that case. Insane. So I know we may be cutting on time.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Listen to this.
And you want parents to be involved in their lives, why can we not be afforded that opportunity to attend all their school events that we have in the past before?
Lisa, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, and I don't know why Ivy's placement is not on the call.
Well, I had my hand up before that to just address something that Valerie had mentioned about the statement that Madison made at school and just mom and dad too. I don't want you to think that anyone is, putting a label on Madison because he made that statement at school this morning. I think we all understand what occurred at school this morning. And in regards to the fun night or family fun night at school this week, we did respond stating that we're adhering to the court order in regards to supervision. So that is why that email was sent out.
But Ms. Lisa, that's the concern that we're having. That's it being inconsistent, because when we asked to go to the visits before, it was told to us that if we want to go to any activities that we need a chaperone. This is our first time hearing now that we need to go to have a court case. And it was days later that you all responded. Like today is the day that you all responded, telling us that we need to go file something with our attorneys. The event is tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Correct, I understand that, and that I apologize for that. So, and I apologize for that timeliness of that. I think with the emails and the addressing the Easter visitation, somehow that just got lost in there. In regards to the school tomorrow night, Ms. McBee is not able to go tomorrow night to the event at the school with the boys. Ivy's father and plan on attending aren't going to be there.
And Ms. Lisa, is that no department has raised this.
So my husband's going to also find another recording also of where we're in a CFT meeting and we're asking why were our children removed? What was the imminent danger, harm, and threat? Because remind you, we kept asking all this time. And as you can see in that recording, you can see some of the challenges that we ran into. It was horrible. Like here we are as parents wanting to see our children, wanting to be that parent, wanting to advocate for them, wanting to attend their school events, and we're being denied.
Such a question as an observation.
So listen to this.
This is an ICWA case. Active efforts have to be made. There is no excuse for the department not taking children to doctor's appointments. There is no excuse for these children not being involved in the extracurricular activities that they were offered previously. That is part of active efforts. That needs to start being done immediately. Active efforts should have started the minute this case opened, the minute Ms. Rushing said that she was Native. I understand there's a lot of back and forth. However, this is about the children, what is best for them. And we want parents involved. We want them to do this. I understand some of these events are after hours. That doesn't matter. Parents have every right to be at their children's events, especially if they have been active. So
Lisa?
This has to be figured out.
Go ahead, ma'am. Lisa, do you want to address Ms. Ridley with regard to how the department handles what's in a court order?
I will just say that our agency will abide by the court order, and that has been advised, and the parents have been advised to talk to their attorneys about it.
But Ms. Ridley just stated something very imperative. This is an equal case. And if the county did their due diligence, this would never had occurred. So again, the best interest of the children was active efforts before the removal of the children. That was not done. I can show you the checkbox that stated they did not think we were Native. My wife was not Native American. So again.
Okay, Mr. Campbell. Now, I understand everybody's perspective and everybody's concern, but we can't stay on this. We can't stay on this.
But this is a federal mandate when it was involved.
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
So you want to put this on the record that what you're saying. I want you to put it on the record.
What I'm saying is we have to move on, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. We need to move on with regard to this meeting, with regard to this particular meeting.
So, I'm sorry, Ms. Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
So, The first thing that needs to be addressed in terms of these children and their permanency and what is the best interest for them needs to be the active efforts in ICWA. That is tantamount. That will determine where this case goes, because it is governed by federal statutes, not state statutes. So this really needs to be hashed out at this meeting so we can start working on that.
Okay, well, Lisa, Mr. White, do you need to chime in at this point on how we move forward with this meeting?
We have a case plan that we would love for Mrs. Rushing and Mr. Campbell to look at, to engage in, and to discuss so that we can try and move this forward. We've been trying to address a case plan with Mrs. Rushing and Mr. Campbell since August of last year, and they have chosen not to engage or discuss the matter. So we do have that, and we're willing and able to have them enter into that case plan, and a matter of discussing it with their attorneys. If they want to do that, they can certainly do that. But we've been ready, willing, and able to do that. And that is something that they have chosen not to engage the department in regards to those efforts. In regards to active efforts, we've been reasonable and diligent in all of our efforts trying to accomplish this.
Mr. White, can I interject for a second? Did we not?
One person at a time. One person at a time. We can't have more than one person speaking.
So, we're more than willing to do that and go into a case plan, and hopefully they will engage and do that.
So, Mr. White, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question, Mr. White? You ready?
Yes, sir.
So here's your question. Did you not hear what Ms. Ridley just stated to you? This is an ICWA case. Your state county jurisdiction does not supersede this. So again, were you guys following the ICWA guidelines in regards to our children? Because I can show physical evidence that you guys checked that these children were not of Native American descent.
So in regards to ICWA, and we were in court, and I don't have the court date, but we were in court on the first 7-day hearing. And in regards to the first 7-day hearing, we had a court report that indicated that it was our opinion or belief that ICWA did not apply. And that is something that Mrs. Rushing and her attorney, as well as you and your attorney, consented to that matter being being admitted into evidence. And that we have that as an order. And then subsequent to that order, we found out that Mrs. Rushing indicated that she did have American heritage, and we immediately started working on identifying the American heritage. So we have that, and we have addressed that, and we do have a case plan if you're willing to do it, and that's fine.
Mr. White, Ms. Ridley has a question.
Hey, 1 second. Just real quick, and I know Ms. Haley and somebody else had a question, but that's not entirely true what was just stated, Mr. White. I was not aware. I was never asked about my American heritage. That was never discussed in court. We really haven't even really submitted anything into evidence, because we really even have had a chance to even speak or do anything in this matter. So that's not accurate at all. I'm now learning that you all were supposed to ask that prior to the removal, and that was done, and that it should have been asked in court when we appeared, and that was not done. Because I would have gladly told you about that. That was learned when Melissa was sitting next to me and texting everything that I was talking to my son about in a group text to about 6 other people. And when she told them that I was Native American, one response came back, OMG. Now, as far as the case plan, we were told by Melissa, and I have evidence of this, that we did not have to do that case plan that she created or that the department created. It was not in partnership together to have that case plan created. We asked what was the purpose of the things that were listed on the case plan and why we needed to do that. Again, we were told that we didn't have to do anything on the case plan until the case was adjudicated. Unfortunately, because of all the continuances, which, by the way, I was not in agreement with, other than the ICWA situation, that is then what came into play about all this other stuff. So don't think that case plan is like active effort. Especially, I mean, and I'm not trying to be combative with this, in which the department is trying to make it seem like we are, and you as well, Jay White. It is not us being combative. It's us trying to understand the purpose of some of these things that y'all are requiring us to do. Like the parenting capacity, I never had an issue with raising my kids, so I just simply asked, what did I do that now you're questioning my parenting skills? And that was it. And then the government item, asked for me to have what they call that?
Psych evaluation?
No. Oh my goodness. Personality assessment. Sorry about that. The personality assessment. And it was like, where did that come into play yet? I've only spoken to Faith once, by the way, in person when she came to the house. So I'm just so lost and confused as to what the agency is doing and kind of make sense of this and everything. And I'm very passionate about my right in this. Like, I have not lost any of my parental rights. I've always been involved in my children's lives. I just want to be included in the decisions that are being made. Now, I know there's questions about IV placement and all those other issues. I have plenty of emails and text messages that I can provide to you. It was never a question about me being able to co-parent with her father. That was the other way around, in which if due diligence was done and the investigation was done appropriately, that would have all been discovered. But instead, it caused a turning point on this. But my whole thing about this is I just don't understand a lot that's happening right now and what's going on. And I just want to get my kids back and get them back on track to the well-loving family that they had. Get them back to us.
Amen.
Lisa, you were going to say something?
I think I was just trying to help Eulonda find the word. But
okay.
But I can just make a comment for the record. And we discussed this before, and in regards to the conversation with Melissa and the parents in regards to the case plans, we have not had the adjudication, correct? And the tasks on the case plan have not been court ordered. That is correct. So that conversation, it was more, the tasks in the case plan have not been court ordered. However, and I have said this as well, we have to develop the case plan within a time frame, which was done. I think we provided a copy. At that time, you had the other attorney to the attorneys. And what has been encouraged is, no, we haven't had the adjudication, but if you start the services, if we've made the referrals, if the services are started, regardless of what the adjudication's been having on, if they were started by the time we get to the adjudication, and we are now going to be 9 months out from the date of custody, most of the services would have probably been completed by now.
Yeah.
Had they been started.
But according to you, when you gave us that case plan, you were telling us, oh, we'll go ahead and get started because it takes about 6 months to even get an appointment. And I thought that was shocking. Because it's like, how did you know that? Because it was like, how did you know that? Because I could have went to my own therapist. And then, by the way, my attorney did provide y'all with a psychological evaluation in which you told her that that's not the right assessment we want her to do. We want her to do a different one. And I'm like,
So I'm a little bit confused. So an assessment is good for the
I've been
Army.
in the military. I've had psychological evaluations done, and I had just recently had one. So I didn't understand why that could not be used.
Right.
So, and I'm sorry, Valerie and Miss
Haley's been waiting.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I just have some concerns that you're not understanding that ICWA provides protections for these families. This case plan is invalid because these parents were not consulted on the development of this case plan. That is directly from the Indian Child Welfare Act. That is part of an active effort. They are allowed to have input.
Thank you.
That should have been your first step. Parents and families are the experts on their families. That is Child Welfare 101. I understand that you want to move this case along and that, case plans should be worked I mean, that's great and fine, but until there is adjudication, any services parents complete, it's not required, it's voluntary. That cannot be held against them, especially if they are contesting the fact that their children were taken into custody. And then also, ICWA provides safeguards if an emergency removal is necessary under state law, and without the full suite of ICWA protections, regardless of the label, the children have to be protected from imminent physical damage or harm. And you have to be able to prove that that imminent physical damage or harm is still present every 30 days. And as soon as that is harm and that danger is taken away, you have to terminate, like, that these children have been taken. Like, you can't continue with the petition. And I don't think that anybody is looking at that. But I mean, we are beyond state recommendations now. This is a federal law. So this is what we have to be concentrating on. And I know I sound like I'm being a stickler, but it's because this is what we have to go by. And I provided Mr. White with the whole, the guidelines for implementing the Indian Child Welfare Act, so he should be very familiar with this. It's the entire guide from the BIA on how to do this. And I mean, it's a textbook case. But at this point, what is the imminent danger and harm for these children? Why are they remaining in custody?
And that's a question that we've been asking since August the 7th, since August the 10th.
We need an answer today.
We have not got an answer yet.
Custody, we have to have an answer.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Well, Haley, you've asked questions. The question is, or the answer is that we have an expert that has identified that Ivy was probably emotionally abused based upon the conflict between her parents, and that Madison and Mason and Ivy are highly probable of having injurious environment, of neglect and of injurious environment due to the events that have taken place in the home. And that since that time, I agree with you, the parents do not have to consent as to any case plan. What we have done is that we have tried to engage the parents in developing a case plan, and they have not chosen not to participate and engage in a case plan. So we offered a possible case plan to them, which they have not engaged in that case plan or engaged in the development of a case plan or brought forward a possible case plan as to how they can work towards the safety concerns that arise in this home. So that has been done, and I agree with you. It's not the mandatory case plan. It is an option of whether they want to participate in that or not. And so that's where we are right now.
Ms. Ridley, I hate to interject, but here's again, where's the immediate danger?
Jack, I'm sorry. Mr. White, you didn't answer her question.
Exactly.
The guidelines say physical injury. If the guideline says physical injury, you did not answer the question. Okay, what is the physical imminent harm to these children? Physically. Not psychologically, physically. Okay. And you didn't answer. If you don't have an answer, you need to abide by federal guidelines.
Okay. I don't need to continue to talk if people are going to talk over me and shout me down. I will listen to what y'all have to say.
Mr. White, what were the physical and imminent harm that we cause our children? As far as the other stuff about the psychological with the Ivy, I think that if DSS, when they were subpoenaed back last March to come to those hearings, they would have heard those hearings. There's never been a custody battle going on between me and her father. The issue has always been what we're going through right now. So I'm being penalized for coming to an agency that was supposed to be representing the best interests of children with a concern. Which we all know, Ivy is placed with their father that's on the central registry in the IRL. But I hear that that's going to be discussed and judicial physical things down.
I'm skipping because of privacy.
But
Okay.
the department nor the CFE examiners ever thought to talk to them. They didn't call the Garden Litem next door to me until about November, December, I think, or somewhere around there. So there was never any question about their physical harm. Matter of fact, when Jessica was coming to do her investigation, she deemed my home safe. She deemed my home safe twice. And she stopped her home visits in February. So there were no home visits from February all the way up until now, in which they just popped up and then you just paid because of the CFT meeting where Ivy's father was inebriated on the call. But I know we're not here to talk about other people, but I just want to know what that physical thing is. And I'm hoping I'm talking at a tone that's not sounding like I'm shouting at you. I don't want you to be offended by what I'm asking. I just simply want to know what the physical imminent harm was, because this is what we've been wondering ourselves.
What I am saying is that when we were in court the multiple times before, when you had Mrs. Bird, Mr. Campbell, I will be quiet and I will stop. In fact, I've got to go to another meeting, so I'm going to step off, because when I try and talk, you continue to shake your head to anything I say.
Oh, so now you're offended about me, Mr. White?
No, this is not
you can speak
from my side. So what happens is this: I'm going
when
to
you
step
get a
out
liar
and
calling
let y'all
something. Is what
continue to
happens.
have a conversation about this.
We can always
when
have a
I try and
conversation.
speak and I try and answer a question, what happens is I'm getting rebuffed by y'all and by whoever else wants to go into a chat that whatever I'm saying is not true. So I will let y'all have this conversation to continue and move on to a more productive means, maybe. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
This is what happens when you catch a liar with his pants down.
Miss Lisa,
Yeah.
Miss Rushing, Mr. Campbell,
He
you
gets.
can't have more than one person talking at a time.
I'm sorry.
That you need to address.
So he took offense to me shaking my head.
Yeah, Miss Linda, that was that's anyways, because no one was doing anything to him.
So
and
I understand. Listen, I understand that there's nothing we can do about that.
Okay, thank you.
But
I just want to make it.
I'm a little bit confused. Miss Latson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Mr. Campbell. I understand, but there's absolutely nothing we can do about that. So he felt that he needed to leave, and that's what took place. And Lisa, did you?
I know the real reason why he left. It's okay.
Hold on. Lisa, did you need to say anything in regard to this line of conversation?
What I'm going to say is this. We have not had the adjudication hearing. We are talking about pre-custody. We are not here to discuss that today. We are here today to discuss the PPR, which is the well-being of the children updates. And please, James, Yolanda, I know it's emotional, but I can't hear or type if people are talking over each other.
Miss Lisa, no one's talking over anyone. That was Jay White having an issue, and this is what, and I want to raise this, Linda. This is what we get when we try to advocate for our children or to say what the department is failing to do. They come back and say we're being combative, or we don't want to listen, or we don't want to do these things, and that's totally false. We are parents advocating for the best interests of our children, in which when the department took our children, when the department removed our children, and I say improper removal to this day, they have not cared for our children in the manner that we would have cared for our children. If we would have missed an appointment, which that was put into the petition about an appointment missing, y'all are trying to ding me for neglect with that. But you all, it's okay for you all to miss appointments. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not making sense to me. But even that's not true. That's in that report about that missed appointment. Like that's not factual. So I hear what Jay White is saying. Like, we have not had a day in court. They have not seen really any evidence. All they have done is read that petition one time, in which they ruled for Ivy to go to her to go to the godmother. We went to court again for the second hearing. I don't know what Jay White slipped that judge was on that piece of paper, but all I know, 5 minutes later, the judge ruled for her to go back to her father. That to me is not having an effective use of time for us to be able to present evidence or to dispute or rebut what you all are done. So I think it's fair that we be honest about what's been taking place here, because that has not occurred at all in this situation.
Right.
If those court hearings are not even conducted the way that they were supposed to be conducted. Like, I just don't get it.
And I'm glad that Miss Ridley is on the call.
Hold on, Mr. Gamble. Hold on. You got a couple of people got their hands raised.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Ridley, I think I saw your hand raised first.
So, I will say that this has been very unprofessional. This is beyond the pale of anything that I've ever experienced, and I work with 21 different states. I understand that Mr. White was getting frustrated, but it is never acceptable to refuse to engage with him. And I can tell you, because I've been included on emails by Ms. Rushing and Mr. Campbell, that the department does not answer their emails in a timely manner or does not provide them any information that they request. That is unacceptable. They asked over a week ago who Ivy's therapist was. Did not find out until today. I want to know why the therapists are not on this call. This should have been rescheduled if the therapists were not available, because they are an integral part of making this decision, considering all of these children are in therapy. That should have been the first people who were contacted to ensure that they had availability to be here today.
Go ahead, keep talking. I'm just documenting what you're saying.
I would also, if anybody has contact information for who Mr. White reports to, I would appreciate it greatly.
And Miss Ridley does.
And Miss Amanda, I think I saw your hand next.
No, I was just echoing in regards to Mr. White getting off of the call. Like, he is the legal counsel for the department. And so there is a conversation that needs to be had. And like I said in the chat, everybody that has the power to make this conversation happen and have some change happen today. Like really grounding in what we have heard today, right? Like the impact that these children are experiencing because of this removal, right? And so when Mr. White is upset because these parents are having emotions because they're in this conversation that shouldn't even have to happen, like, we have to all understand that, just like the grace that we give to Madison and Mason and I, right, about what is going on. And so, yeah, I just, like, again, I know we're supposed to be talking about well-being, but again, the conversation, if we're really talking about well-being, is these children coming home. Anything less than that would just be wasting space. Like, we need to be talking about when these children are coming home, and that should be today. Like, Mr. White's inability to answer the question speaks volumes. Like, it speaks volumes. And so, like, if there is nothing that is keeping these children from coming home, then why aren't they home? That's my question. And like, so Lisa and Melissa, you have the power to make change. Like, I was a social worker for 10 years. And so if you can go talk to Jay White right now in your office and say, look, we need to make change right now. We need to give these children back to their parents. You have the power to do that. Understand your power. Like, do not just put it on the court order of the judge. Take it to the judge and tell the judge what needs to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. That's a big wow. Yeah, see, he pulled a power play walking out of there. If he doesn't want to hear what accountability is and what the laws are in regards to the, I've heard so much about him. Go ahead.
The sad thing about this, our county pays him close to $500,000.
Oh, what a waste of money.
So taxpayers, your property taxes, that's going to his almost $500,000 contract.
Right.
And I had a conversation yesterday with a candidate on another ticket. And while we were talking, I asked him, I said, what is your platform when it comes to family rights? Because I knew that is what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so interesting is that he didn't know that federal, state, and local funding goes into this system the way that it does. So Cabarrus County don't have any statistics, no data. since, I want to say the last thing I looked at was 2016. I couldn't find anything. And that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So Amanda Wallace, who's with Operation Stop CPS, she had posted Durham County statistics. And so I knew that Cabarrus County had around 213 kids in the foster care system over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at Durham County, they had about 216 or somewhere around there, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, we can compare these two counties then when it comes to funding. What really caught my eye at first is Durham County has more residents than we do. But yet we have the same amount of children in the foster care system. Durham County paid the foster parents over $330,000 a month. So then my question is, where is that line item in Cabarrus County? Why are we not seeing that? And then the other thing that's that just speaks volumes to me
Mm-hmm.
is that our county was given an award for their budget, outstanding budget, but yet it's been 4 months since the FOIA request has been fulfilled. We don't know where money's going. That's a problem. And when you go to these commissioner meetings and you want to raise and address issues, our commissioners stay mute. They don't talk about what this person may have came up and addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Even after the public comments, there is still no general comment about what is going on. That's a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can easily say, we keep record of who speaks on these yellow pieces of paper. Why are we not following up?
Mm-hmm.
Just similar to this whole property tax debacle. Why are we not having town halls to discuss what is going on in this county? We have to have transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, we have no accountability.
No oversight.
Zero.
Mm-hmm.
When you file a complaint against DSS, it goes to, you can contact a representative. They'll send it to the constituent's office. They'll check in on it, whatnot. You don't get a response from the representative about the outcome. You may get a response from the state, but they'll tell you, oh, because it's confidential, because it's a confidential case with the children, we cannot tell you what course of action or what the consequences was or what happened. Quit hiding behind that. My complaint has nothing to do with the case. My complaint has everything to do with how this is being ran and what they are doing, abusing the system and removing children improperly. Our taxes goes into that. So if there's an issue with the government entity or a sector of it, we need to bring awareness to it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk about it. And I don't understand why we're not talking about the children. I don't get that. That bothers me. And it's sad that my children were removed on August the 7th. That recording that you heard was April the 6th of this year. We went all those months with not knowing what we did. And to this day, we still don't know what we did. Because you're just throwing in stuff. You're throwing in stuff. So where are we now? I'm going to tell you where we are now. When it came to my daughter, so let me back up. We had our adjudication, we had the hearing on May 8th.
Mm-hmm.
We had the disposition on July 8th. Not right. To this day, we do not have the order from July 8th. They are almost 3 months past general statutes where you are to submit an order within 30 days. Without that order, we can't move anything. Nothing. So what happened after that? We had to go to court on August the 12th. This is going to be interesting. So when we had a meeting with the county chairman of the board, the chairman of the commissioners board, Steve Morris, and we had a meeting with county manager Mike Downs, Holly McCullum, who was a DSS director, and Elise Pugh, who was the interim director of DSS at that time, before Karen Calhoun, which is very interesting because Karen Calhoun resigned in December of 2023, resigned. And then I say, no, she did not resign. We know very well what she was doing. We know that during her tenure, she was having social workers give parents and grandparents to sign illegal forms that gave away their right. It's on the news. You can Google it. So when he said that to me, don't say that. That's not true. Don't insult my intelligence. We know why she resigned. So now you have this interim director coming in, and I don't know if you're trying to create confusion or what you're trying to do, but that's what you've done. You've convoluted this whole situation to where it is so messy. So messy. Some people don't want to touch it. Some people are like, well, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? I did nothing. So what did that occur? So in December, I raised the issue of conflict of interest because I put my name on the ballot. It was a split-minute decision the night before the filing deadline. Because I had someone come and say, you need to run because you've had a personal experience, you speak, you want change, and you're passionate. And they didn't know that in Oklahoma, before I moved here, I was on that trajectory. I wanted to be a representative. And it's funny how God will put you and move you into the position that you're supposed to be. That's why I know this is on purpose. This was on purpose. And so now I'm going to take this purpose and I'm going to speak to it and I'm going to work with it and I'm going to help families and children. So when August 12th came along, Marianne, you're not going to believe this. I had a court-appointed attorney at the time. And with that court-appointed attorney, he came in, I'm going to withdraw from the case. No, you're not. Because I had already gotten word that he couldn't withdraw before the case because they would have the hearing and then I would get a new attorney afterwards because I was having issues with the attorney. How can you represent me and you did not meet with me at all? You received my case file the day of court.
Typical.
That's not right.
Right.
So when he said that to me, I just told him, you are a horrible attorney. And I had to remove myself because now I'm thinking this is a mess. Like, where are my rights at? I'm screaming at this point, but no one is listening. No one's listening. So we get to court, we start the hearing, he withdraws, gave no reason, no nothing. She let him do it. She asked me, are you ready? I assumed that meant because I can't hear out of my right ear, I had to put on headphones. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'm ready to get this case started, so we can start everything. But then I'm learning that when she asked me, am I ready? That meant that I was okay without having an attorney. That should not be how that is. You should ask me clear as day, do I need another attorney? So what you did in that moment, you took advantage of me. And they then came back and said, well, blah, 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 blah. This is going to go to a chapter 50 with Ivy. So now because it's on chapter 50, we're going to bring it back here for a permanency planning hearing. And I'm hearing all of this being regurgitated by Jay White. And I'm like, This does not make any sense to me. So when I heard permanency planning hearing, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be similar to what we've had before, I assume. So we're going to check on the status of Ivy. No, because she has been placed with her father for 12 months, you gave him full custody.
Oh, no, you're kidding.
Yes, ma'am. And then you want to roll it back to a chapter 50. You can't do that. How can you have another permanency planning hearing and you just rolled it and ruled it to a chapter 50? And by the way, we don't even have an order. So then they had to move the boys' case to another county because of conflict of interest, because I'm running for county commissioner. You knew that in December. Why are you now deciding to move it in August? August. And when you moved it, you're sending incomplete files, duplicates, information for one child. They just got the petition the other day, and they've been there 3 months. We've been there with them for almost 3 months. And our previous foster parent she put in her notice for 30 days. I'm going to be honest. She said she was tired of DSS. There were other issues, but that's not my place. So we were panicking. What are we going to do now? Cabarrus County had been telling us that we could not even bring family members up here to keep our children. Because we even offered, hey, what if we bring a family member up here to keep our children and we would go stay with someone or get a hotel or whatnot? Denied. My mother, my brother, denied. But it was so interesting when the social worker told us that if we don't find placement, the boys would have been sleeping in the DSS building because they don't have the space. I then learned that when you were placing the boys in the previous foster care home, you had to contact an outside agency to help you look for a foster home. So now that we have the boys here, my husband and I have to leave at night. We go to my friend's house. She's married in an apartment. We either sleep on the couch or we sleep on the floor. Like my husband said, we would rather be uncomfortable for our children to be comfortable. And if that doesn't tell you what kind of parents we are, I don't know what else can tell you that. So that's why I say our children were improperly removed. This other county wants to give us our children back. This other county sees this was an issue. Our new social worker, quote unquote, I'm tired of this case because this is messing with my moral fiber. Cabarrus County portrayed us to be all these crazy things. That social worker didn't know what to expect from us. On the first visit, when it was all said and done, I'm thinking this is a good visit. Because what happened in that visit, two things. One, my son had to go to the bathroom. So we knew from previous of being with Cabarrus County DSS, we all had to go to the bathroom. So we're like getting ready to go all to the bathroom. No, you can take him to the bathroom. So I pause and I'm like, okay. So then the second thing, at Frank Lisk, they have a seating area. And if you go to the playground, you really can't see because the building obscures it. Let me tell you. I'm like, well, are you going to come with us? Because we're going to be over here and you're not going to be able to see us. Oh, no, you're fine. At this time, I'm thinking, we've been set up. Like, let's just do what we do because I'm confused right now. She left. My husband says, I guarantee you that social worker is probably saying, what the heck am I doing here?
Right.
At the therapy session that we first went to, which, by the way, this county encourages parents to go to their therapy sessions. Cabarrus County did not. So we go to their therapy session. We sitting outside. It comes up in discussion. My husband said again, I'm going to tell you what I told my wife. You're probably thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Of course, other words were used.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She chuckled. And I'm like, okay. She goes, no, I'm not laughing at you all because I really am thinking, what am I doing here? And I begin to think, what about those other children that need it?
Mm-hmm.
You're wasting resources, just like you wasted 4 officers coming here.
Oh, geez. At taxpayers' expense.
Yes, ma'am. So this is why I'm running for county commissioner. This is why I'm risking and sacrificing everything. This is why.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where I don't want to leave my house. I have social workers that when they see me, they move their children away from me. Or they look at me funny because you have a chairman on the board who's telling people that I have a vendetta against social workers.
Mm-hmm.
There is no vendetta. It's called doing what's right. And I don't understand why people can't do what's right. Oh, well, you got to fix how you talking so that way you can talk to other people and they can understand you. So basically what you're telling me is that I can't be my authentic self.
Mm.
And I go back to it. If I can't be my authentic self, you don't need to vote for me. I don't deserve to be on your ballot and I don't deserve to represent you. If you can't raise your hand for what is right, what are you fighting for? What is your purpose in serving in this position then?
And they are the problem.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with anybody. Just because you're Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, at the end of the day, red, blue, purple, it does not matter when it comes to kids.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to come together and solve the problem. If Congress can come together and solve the problem to ban TikTok or whatever they want to do with TikTok, I mean, almost unanimously, quick. That tells me that you can come and have a discussion and find common ground.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't, that tells me you have no intentions on trying to make things right. You don't want to. But you know that you can. And I don't understand why you don't.
Right.
And that's why I have a problem. So, yes, I speak for accountability. I speak for transparency. I'm going to be real. Like my husband said, we need real people who has real problems, who've been through real experiences to make real change. That's what we need. And that is what I'm going to do. And like I said, I know I'm sacrificing a lot. I know what it is. And like I told my social worker, if it happens, it happens. And she knows what I'm speaking of, but I can't speak on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm sacrificing. But what kind of parent would I be if I sat idle
Right.
and did nothing when I knew I could do something? That's not in me. And I'm not going to sit here and just trust this Cabarrus County child welfare system and ensuring to get my kids back. Because it seems like you don't even want to do that. At this point, like I told the social worker, you went from retaliation to wrongdoing. Now you're intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Cabarrus County has a history of covering things up. Look at the history of Stonewall Jackson that involved children, the riots that took place, the woman that cried rape. You don't want to speak truth. And when you don't speak truth, this is what happens. These are the consequences that we face. And because of your lack in doing your job, you are now putting that burden on taxpayers because you all refuse to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And just like in this situation, you are refusing to tell the truth. I have nothing to hide. We all have done things. I'm an open book. But I'm going to fight to bring my children home.
There's people with no integrity that don't even care. And that's what's scary. And here you are, a mom doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. My grandmother, who I miss so dearly, that woman had the biggest heart. And I'm just like her. And I didn't understand my grandmother at the time because even though she had a big heart, Marianne, people still did her wrong. Talked about her, used her. And you know what? Despite what they did to her, my grandmother still had a heart for them. I saw it. I was upset with it. I even questioned my grandmother why. Her response, you have to treat everybody right. So when I learned and seen that I had this big heart and people will tell you, I will help anybody. I would do without. I have done without so that my children can have. I have done without so other people can have. And then I questioned myself and I was like, why do I have this big heart? Why am I doing this? And how did my grandmother do this? But I'm reminded of her smile. And I'm reminded of God's grace and mercy and knowing that He will protect me in all of this. So that's why I say I can't operate in fear. God did not give us the spirit of fear. I can't be afraid of H.J. White Sr. I can't be afraid of Christy Wilhelm. I can't be afraid of Steve Morris. I can't be afraid of the court system. I can't be afraid of the Republicans and the senators that's in these seats right now that knows that these issues are going on in the child welfare system. I will not be afraid. It's that simple.
It's too bad other candidates don't have the same chutzpah you have.
As I was told, I can't worry about other people's campaigns.
Right.
I got to worry about myself. But I thought we were a night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this was definitely an eye-opener.
I don't talk about people, and that's the other thing. You try to get advice, you try to get some kind of assistance. I'm new at this. I don't know what questions to ask or what this looks like when you're on a political journey, but I can tell you this. I was hindered. I was stopped. I was made promises like, oh, we're going to help you with this. We'll help you with that. Never happened. It did not happen.
Oh.
So I say what was given to me. From now on, I will campaign and I will canvass with my family and my husband, and I will advocate with them, which I'm starting an organization to help children. I'm already building a framework for it. You can't do this. I'm not here to talk about people, but I am here to do what's right. If we can't have conversations and if we can't sit and say, this is wrong, or this is what you're doing wrong, or why are you doing this, or help me understand, that's a problem. Because if you're elected and there's differences on the table, how are you working out those differences? How?
Well, probably with somebody walking out in a huff because they don't want to hear accountability and oversight.
Exactly. So again, whether I win or lose, Marianne, I'm going to continue to fight and I'm going to continue to shed light. until this problem is fixed. People tell me it's a long journey. I'm ready. I'm ready. Because at this point, what do I have to lose, Marianne? You have taken my babies. That's what I tell them. Yes, I'm a mama bear. I'm okay to be a mama bear because I love my children. And I want them to be able to have things I never had, to experience things I never experienced, and to see me being the good citizen I'm supposed to be. And knowing that when they grow up, they had that solid foundation to be able to do what they need to do to be an adult and be a good citizen again in this county, in this state,
Right.
in the United States.
Oh, jeez.
Isn't that what we want?
Right.
Good citizens. DSS tried to tell us that my little ones had developmentally delayed. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. I can work with that. My two boys are in a Spanish immersion dual program. My 6-year-old, his teacher from Honduras, she said she's just amazed at it, at his comprehension, at how he understands, his enunciation, the fact that he just wrote his first narrative all in Spanish. But
oh, wow.
According to DSS, he's developmentally delayed.
Well, don't they get more money for a child that is disabled? I've heard
Yes.
that.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They even put my children on Medicare without my permission. At that time, they were doubled insured, private insurance. To me, that's fraud.
That is fraud. That's double dipping.
But they said, oh, well, when children come into the system, they automatically have to get Medicaid. Well, if that's the problem, if that's the case, then that needs to be relooked at. Because if the parents have private insurance, they have to use their private insurance. I had no idea. And don't you know, to this day, like my daughter's going to doctors and therapists, I can't get therapy notes. I can't get doctor visits. I can't get anything. The therapist center, and I won't say the name now, but I will later, basically told me I am not entitled to that. And I'm like, well, I'm the birth mother. Like, this is my children. Like, when did I lose my legal rights?
I think a lot of parents are wondering that too.
So yes, I know this was a mouthful, but I want people to see the authentic self of me.
I wish there were, I wish they could clone you or make a whole bunch of you in every state. And I want you to win.
And you know what, Marianne? I appreciate that. And I want to win as well. But again, if that doesn't happen, I'm not stopping. And that's the thing that I don't think they understand. Oh, so you want to politically sabotage me.
Right.
Guess what? But guess what? That's not going to stop me from speaking up. Or maybe you just did this to keep a lid on it because it's election year. Well, maybe that's what you did.
Well, look what Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's ironic that we had a group of families coming together. We were getting ready to have more families come together. We had a mole in our group. Our group began to decimate,
decimate.
Decimate. I'm sorry. And they were given little things, and then
what a shame.
Yes. So, but you know what? That just tells me that you're not the person that needs to be in this organization. And when that momentum stopped, you know what? That's when the property tax situation came into play. So I feel like that was just another way to try to go over what's happening with DSS. Because from my understanding, they didn't have to raise the property taxes till next year. It's sad.
Yeah, it is.
I did not move to North Carolina. I did not come to Concord and purchase my first home. I did not come to Concord to sell my first home and build my first house with my husband for you to come here and take my children. I thought I was fulfilling the American dream. Get your education, get your good job, get your house. I don't have the white picket fence, but I have a fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's what I had to do.
Oh.
But it served my country.
Right, right. And this is how you get treated.
And this is how I get treated. So at the end of the day, in your eyes, who am I?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope you win. And I'd like to have you come back onto the podcast if you would like for an update.
Yes.
Yes. You know, there's so many good candidates being overlooked and no one's paying attention to the real issue, which is our children. This is our future. This is our future generations.
Exactly.
And they don't care. You know, I'm just so glad I had you on.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. You know how you can see I'm just so passionate about this. This is, yeah.
Well, I wish everybody else was. You know, I mean, how can people reach you if they have any questions?
So if you have any questions, please feel free to call me at 405-919-2865. You can also email me at eulondaj@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook under Eulonda Rushing. And you can also contact my husband, James Campbell. We are here to help you. If you are in a situation with DSS and you don't know what to do, or you're confused, or you just need the support, we can help you. We want to help you and be there for you and know that you are not alone.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And regardless of the outcome, you're going to keep going. And regardless of my outcome, look what I did.
Exactly. And I admire that, Marianne.
Thank you.
That is tremendous work. And the fight is not over. We got to keep fighting.
Right. Right. I've been at this since 2020. So I'm going. I'm keeping going.
I'm surprised you're not gray all the way. Like I'm getting grays in my hair.
I have to dye my roots. My roots are.
Oh, that's funny. You don't need a diet. You look
Oh,
so
no,
bad.
I do though. Look at. Well, I'm so glad. Hey, don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. And I totally thank you, Eulonda Rushing. I hope you win.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate this, Marianne.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.